All right. So I've made some advances today, but I'm not where I want to end up. But the good news is, so it seems, is that we have Houston. We have an X window. Watson, come in here. Well, this isn't the first time it's ever happened, obviously. But I was wondering if it was ever going to happen. Um, and I'm gonna end up learning some interesting things. I'll just start from the beginning. I'll talk about what I did today. I'm gonna release some more packages and some more patches. Talk a bit more about XSDL, which is the X window server that I was able to get to run just now. Talk about where I'm at with it myself and probably changes I need to make or strategy to try to get my build to actually work. And then the issue about it having been discontinued and the fact I've made a package for it for Pkgsrc. I haven't released it yet. And if once I do, it'll be a GitHub. I mean, no one's going to really know to look there. So now that I have a Pango build, I'm just going to be able to do GTK apps. And I'm finding there's a bunch of unresolved symbols hidden amongst a lot of my binaries. So I'll just start out with the salt. It's a real difficult circumstance to deal with. In any change root situation, actually. It's under some circumstances. So there we are. So there is our X server. Now, the way it works is the way it was before. This is actually running out of an XSDL binary that I downloaded from the Penguin repository, where he's got a bunch of patches and .box packages, which I don't I don't know much about the .box protocol, but that's beyond the point. But I'm glad to see that it's working. So the way it works is that you first have to start this miniature X server, have it run separately, and then you have to go to the terminal, and then you pick something. And I know one thing that's gonna work. It's called Battle Ball. So back see. Obviously, some of these didn't work. Food Billiards opened up its own window. There's your Battle Ball. Does it work? Now, the notes that were left with this XSDL, I didn't compile this one. The one I compiled will just die. But on this, the guy was saying that there was some issues with the keyboard and the mouse. I guess I know what he's saying. I mean, I don't get immediate mouse use, but as you can see, I press the keyboard, moves around, space bar, it goes like that. And then after I exited this thing, I noticed at that point I'm going to be able to do that. Click. I had a mouse. There is my mouse. And you'll see that it will stop at the edge and my mouse will continue. So I don't know what it is about Battle Ball that triggers this mouse to start working, but it does. It's a black screen until such time as I start something else. Notice how I have the application, then I have a :0, and I'm saying use socket 0. And to see that this thing is running, you do net stat, you see it port 6000, which is the same as the 0. It'll say that there's a TCP connection that's listening for connections, and that's what this is. Okay, so that gives me a better feeling about the whole situation. That at least it's not impossible to run XSDL. Now, what was the difference between what I was trying before, where I couldn't get it to run? It would just start and then it would die, not seeing the fonts, and what I'm doing now? Well, I don't know if I had them misplaced yesterday, or if just today I was able to actually build the fonts I needed. I think it's the latter. So his is designed to it's built to look for the fonts in the common library directory. And it has to be exactly this way. It has to be common, library, X11, fonts, and then your stuff. The way I had earlier today, I didn't have a thing called fonts. These were just sitting there, and I'd copied all these over from boot, home, package, share. Maybe there's a fonts directory. Fonts X11. So I copied over the X11 directory into boot common library. But the problem is that what I didn't realize I needed to do was add an intermediary directory called fonts, place all these inside the fonts directory, and copy it over to boot common library X11 and fonts. So this is old style. This is pre-package management style. You could still use, obviously, you could still use boot common library X11 fonts. You just have to make a directory, basically. Now, the issues that I'm having are just loads of unresolved symbols. I'll try to, and it's nothing to do with his as far as I can see, this X server is running about as good as it's going to get. So he's done a very, very good job here. I'm trying to recreate this. Now, just bits of information about XSDL. Number one, they discontinued XSDL when they released 7.6 here. And I'm going to look at some of the discussion on the mailing list here. Let me grab some. And just to step back for a second. I don't think this is the only option, the only way to get, graphical programs to run in Haiku, obviously. As I've seen before, Foo Billiard will create its own little window. And then over here, if I wanted to get Battle Ball going at the same time. I could do that too. So I could be a double-fisted gamer if I want to. But there seems to be a little bit of interference here. I'm not sure. But let's talk about this. These are two different methodologies that are actually running games that I've been able to build in Pkgsrc. I'm I'm also going to look into these errors. I'm going to take care of every error that I could find. Don't know if I could resize the window, but anyway, now I don't know everything there is to know about the history of X11 in the BOS. I don't know everything. But one thing I do know is I only know of two actual builds, and only of one that I could actually run in this system right now, and that's the one that was built in 2009. The other one before that, it's hosted over at Haiku, and as far as I know, that was the first original port made in the BOS days, and that was probably around 2000, 2001, maybe earlier, that it was built. So these builds don't happen all that often, but there are a lot of games we might want to play. Now, I know that there's a billiards game in Haiku Depot. I've seen it. Don't know if there's a battle ball. There's a pretty good racing game in there. It goes kind of fast, but so, you know, we're getting some games, but the point is that with the POSIX layer that we're supposed to have, of course, it'd be nice to be able to actually run POSIX applications in our operating system. So, the good news with all this is that with this SDL, it seems to only want to create 2 lock files, and it actually is connected into the temp directory. The temp directory can only handle symlinks. I'm going to change my code with that. I'm going to see if I can get all 4, but there was one set of code in Xtran code I couldn't figure out how to make it use symlinks rather than hard links. Apparently it was using hard links. The 2 lock files that are generated by Pkgsrc server, those two those I know how to deal with. You know, just turn those into symlinks. I probably should have just kept it that way. I thought that was a reason why my stuff wasn't running, but it actually was. But we're at a place where now, I mean, just the only thing we can't really do is build GTK2 programs, because GTK2 wants the whole shebang of shared memory. Also, with my own issues with Library X11, I could have screwed up some of the patching. And that's why I'm having the issues that I am. So I'm going to look over his patches very closely, and actually I'm just going to re-implement them exactly the way he did it, because I just kind of proceeded, and then if I got stuck, I'd look at his stuff. But I'm going to do it exactly the way he has it and see if that makes a difference. And then I'm going to put this package into Pkgsrc. It's important enough, I'm going to try Haiku port. I'm not confident making a recipe for Haiku porter. I know at least I could deliver the patches. So, and the pathway to having Library X11 work, as far as I know. And the way to go right now is this XSDL, and it's the doorway, the pathway to all of the POSIX-based, non-BE API-based, but POSIX-based applications that are out there. That's the gateway. That's the way we would get there. So, now, on the other hand, I'm having the same problems with this, with my own builds, my own patches. Obviously, I've done something wrong, and I gotta figure out what that is. But I'm having the same symptoms when I try to run this XSDL as I have when I try to run the full-blown X server, with some exceptions. For one, this XSDL doesn't need... It didn't seem to need me to build the VESA driver. In fact, I'm going to go over what the steps are for modular Xorg server anyway, because those are... It wasn't very clear to me as to what I had to do, and for the longest time I was just thinking about how I was going to actually get an X window to run. I think I'll probably get there if I spend enough time on it. And probably from the experience of building this XSDL, I'll have a shot at getting Library X11, the full Library X11, or some version or variation of it to run. So I could explain some of the technical details about it. But a little bit on this XSDL before I do that. So back in, this was, I don't know when it was, 2009. Now this guy had just taken the time to build this stuff. And he just had patched it, just boxed it all up. It was just, I mean, his build date maybe is 2 months before this happened. So on October 20th of 2009, XSDL was removed officially from the Xorg tree. So, but the source is still up at x.org. It's just not in the current tree. Okay, so someone was having some kind of problem. This was in September of 2009. Doing something or other. This is a patch apparently for the K drive SDL. Okay. Not sure what it does. And then someone says, here's my patch, and someone else says, well, you know what? Does anybody even use this stuff? And then someone else says, well, if there are any, I don't know of any of them. Oh, here's one guy that's trying to compile it. And then, they just decided no one uses it and just nuked it. Basically, no one was going on the mailing list and complaining about bugs, and so, or reporting that they were using it, and so they just nuked it. They got rid of it in 2009. Now, to my mind, that was a very, very unfortunate thing for Haiku users, because that's our gateway. At least right now, I know this can be built, or it should be able to be built. I may have a limitation in my ability to patch the source right, but it can. And it runs and it works. A very, very old version of X386, could run almost looking the same way. So, it's unfortunate that they removed it. Now, I made a Pkgsrc package, and I was able to figure it out. And it didn't tell me it wasn't on the list. It let me go ahead and do it. I pretty much built a make file and got it to download the older version of one of the last versions of Xorg that had XSDL in it, and was able to build it. Although and then I tried to run it, and I had the same problems I had with the full-blown X, and wondered why I even tried to do this thing. Well, the good news is that the guy that made this, released his patches, and so I'm going to look at his patches and make sure that my patches match his patches, and God damn it, that it will work. Now, the second method is, this Foo Billiards, I don't think, I don't know the history behind it, but it's just a random. I just picked this at random to run. I didn't have any, you know. I think it's just an X program that uses the library GL, and because I had Haiku's library GL in there, it's actually using the translation kit and running in this little window like some of the other programs do. Well, if we're able to do that, why mess with the X server? Just get this. Well, the problem is I don't know exactly. I have to look to see whether did this thing link with the Mesa, why doesn't, Battle Ball here well, maybe it's not a Mesa based program. So I got to look and see what games are Mesa based, and do all the Mesa based games load up this way. Was this Foo Billiards, was it designed to run an X11 at all? I just don't know. So, because I haven't looked, I haven't had time to look. I still have a lot of packages to try to port over. But, so, this is kind of like evidence that we have the technology. We have the technology, at least when Mesa, and I think Mesa's even a dependency of Library X11. That's what's so strange about this. I'm really curious as to what the dependencies are for Foo Billiards right now. I'm going to look. It's a OpenGL billiard game. Needs GLUT, needs SDL, Library XAW, and Library XI, but it doesn't need Library X11. So I'm going to look at more of these, actually. And what's so strange about this is the if-def here doesn't even include Haiku to have GLUT enabled. So, but it's going against Mesa. That may be part of the answer. Maybe, So now there's a lot of experimenting to do to see what kind of integration can take place. But the other side of it is that someone out there knows how to get the way that Haiku's native Mesa is built. It allows for these Mesa-based programs actually to run in what appears to be a pretty much an integrated fashion inside the operating system, which is what you want. You probably don't want to have this goofy thing where you have to have a X window open over here, then you got to open something else over there. But it's much harder to have it end up this way. At least that's what I believe. So the OpenGL games, to me, seem to be much more attractive than, or promising than the other ones. But see, now that I have a X window that works, if I had to build a Firefox, I could run it. In fact, I could try Motive. I'll probably get an unresolved symbol. But, hey, what the hell? Why not? So, does seem to run a little bit slow. In fact, both these seem to want to have another window open. So before I had the browsers I was able to build, so far they've been text-based. Lynx and LYNX and LINKS. So now let's see whether I can get... Okay, so start at my XSDL. I haven't tried this. This is like the classical NSA mosaic. I remember this stuff was running Went over to the library in like 1994 or 3, so this isn't going to be anything fancy. We'll see if it runs. Can't open display. Don't know how far I'm going to get. Well, there was that idea. Sucks. But Link's GUI might be interesting. So I actually do have a build of Link's GUI. Just have to get rid of the other one. Of course, I'm getting sidetracked for what I should be talking about, and that is, okay, so there's, who knows what's going to happen with, we may be very limited as to what we can actually use as far as OpenGL programs, right? We still may want to run X11-based programs. So we still may want, and if if we can't get if I can't get the full X, or someone else can't get the full Xorg running, or it's impossible to actually run, then then the only viable thing we're going to have here is this XSDL, and we're probably going to want to keep this alive. We don't want it to just die. We've been willing to fork library USB. We've been willing to fork a number of other things. If we're serious about POSIX, then we would keep this project alive. It's just plain and simple. If we're not serious about POSIX, or if we think POSIX only has its place in the command line, really, the makers of the operating system should be making decisions for the users. The users are going to want this. So, problem is, I don't know if we have enough people to or enough skilled people to actually maintain. I mean, the best I could do is get it to build, keep it patched for XSDL, and then every time a new version of X11 comes out, including the first time, find out all the code that actually is needed to build this thing, maybe slim it down and only include the parts that are needed, and run diffs against what they have over there at Xorg and try to keep the code up to date, because you, in my opinion, you really don't want to fork, and I want it to actually be easy to bring it back in. But also, try this. This is slow. Oh, right. I'll see how Link's GUI does. Otherwise, if we don't have a viable way to run X11 programs, we're stuck in our own little world, basically. Even if the only thing that's really ever going to run, actually, are just OpenGL-based games. So any game that is, or anything that's X11 based that's in Haiku ports would just be a waste if we don't have a working X11. So we don't want that to be a waste. We don't want the porting efforts that people have gone through to be wasted. So this is why, in my opinion, that we want to have working SDL. So for the best. It's not much more of a GUI to my opinion, to my mind. But at least it's able to hold the network connection. Anyway, so yeah, not there yet. I'm gonna need to build an NSS to even have anything worth running. I'm really curious to know whether NetSurf is OpenGL based. If it is, that's good. But anyway, so we don't want any efforts to be wasted over Haiku port or anywhere. So we do want a working X11. I'm hoping in the next week, at least I'll have this library. I'll be able to say that I've built it. Here's the source. Here is how you make this, because we want to be able to continue making this thing. And if we want to maintain SDL, we can, I hope. I don't know if we have the manpower for it, but it's certainly something to consider. And we're better off, I think, because of that. So where am I with my whole rigmarole, with my set of skills, and which is limited? What have I been able to do? What have I had problems with? Okay, so today I spent some time building Xorg. I finally realized what you had to do. So you don't just build, as I did, a modular Xorg server from the X11 category and think you're done. The way I had modular Xorg server built, it would never run because I was missing some parts. I was missing all the fonts, and I was missing all of the I was missing a keyboard driver, a mouse driver, and a video card driver. Now, to go back, I probably should talk a little bit more about how I got this to run, because this XSDL, before I get into the story about there, where I'm at with the Xorg, because someone might want to use this today. So, or relatively soon, right? And, of course, if only one person or two people in the whole world can run it, that doesn't do any good for the platform. So I want the information to be out there. So, how do I think I've got this thing running? Okay, so first of all, I searched for I'm just going to go now because I don't want to forget. I think his name is Ping K. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to upload via XSDL, actually, binary that I have in my home directory. So let's just, I'm going to move that there right now. Sorry about the pauses, but I just want to make sure I don't screw up. And I do tend to just wander off into other subject to things like that, and that's no good for the situation because it could be important to somebody. So As odd as this is going to seem, since I've put other packages in my patches category, I'm actually going to put this inside my, I'm going to put it inside the XSDL patches folder. I'm going to label the folder binary. I probably should do a note. I'm just, it's just taking so much time to do all these different things. Now I'm going to copy this. And today I've yet to release my patches and patches. And I still have to add my settings, actually. Was an exciting day today, so just make sure I get this up there. Okay, and then okay, that Git will detect that. I need to go to my settings. Which I should have done a long time ago. And I haven't copied them up yet. I'm trying to remember if I have it in some other place. No, I don't. Okay, so all right. So I'm not ready to say that I'm gonna sit here and try to maintain library SDL. But okay, so let's get back to how this whole thing seemed to have worked for me. Number one, I believe I had to have library X font installed, at least in package source, because if I didn't, it wouldn't let me try to install the fonts that package source believe were part of the modular Xorg server fonts. Once I installed them, it put them in that directory that I had talked about before, boot, home, package, share fonts, and then I had to move them, the subdirectory that had X11 in it, I had to move it over, because when this X11 was compiled by Penguin K, he'd specifically pathed the fonts for this server to be in boot, home, common, library X11 fonts, and then all the Xorg fonts are here. If you have those in place and you have one of them, at least one of them, it's called fixed, and you can just copy one of them and rename it fixed if you have to. That's what I did. I don't know if that made a difference or not. It'll run for you as long as, so you can get the XSDL from my Git repository. The binary is actually inside the patches repo, not the applications repos that I'm loading up. That I have loaded up. And then you download that. You want to install library X font and the font packages that I would have uploaded on the 27th of December, okay, 2015. Don't remember the name of all those packages, but you have all those things, and you put the fonts in the exact right spot. And you also put the following libraries in boot, home, common, boot, home, config, non-packaged, library, You put live crypto and you rename them. And you renumber them to these exact numbers. Even if it's newer, just renum to these numbers. Live crypto, live pixman, live XAU, live XDMCP, live xfont. Then you'll be able to run from the command line. And I just put the XSDL, I just placed that in my home directory. But if you actually want to have it pathed, you'd put it in boot home config non-packaged bin. And then you could, anytime you wanted to run the X server, you'd have to open up the command prompt, or the terminal actually, and then you type capital X SDL, and then open up another terminal and have it so it runs the program you want it to run. You know, you obviously have to have some POSIX graphical program installed, and then append after you put the command to run the program, such as BattleBall space :0, and then it will look for the X server screen called 0, and then it'll be able to run. That's the way things are now, and that's for non-SDL programs. For OpenGL, sorry, for OpenGL programs, you just run in the command line. You don't need an X server running, and they work. Knowing which ones are which, I don't have it memorized. It'll take a little bit of research, but there you are. Okay, so now let's get back to package source and what you have to do to get the modular Xorg server to run. First of all, you have to get pretty far. Fortunately, my patches will take you there. The other good news is, and I'm going to explain this, try to be very clear about this as I can, but I'll do that after I talk about modular Xorg server. Then you could you can either install the packages that I have up in Git, or you can use the source and the patches that I've supplied, and even the settings I've supplied to build up to having library xfont installed, library x11, modular Xorg server, all that stuff installed, Mesa, Glue, Glut, Cairo, Pango. Don't know if Pango's, well, Pango's necessary for a lot of the X-based programs. And then you're done, basically, with that part. That's step one. You have the engine of the modular Xorg server running. You have to, I'm not being very clear. So there's a list that the NetBSD project has that's very good. Basically, in package source, you have to install the modular Xorg server package that's in the X11 category. Then you have to go to the meta packages category and install the modular Xorg server apps category. That actually pulls packages from various places that aren't in the meta packages category. They're in either the fonts category or they're in the X11 category. My patches will get you through that. Okay, and then you have to do the just look at the list. If I could find it. It's a lot. It's just so many technical things to remember all at once. But well, just go by memory. Oh yeah, then you have to do the mouse, the keyboard, and then the driver for your hardware or for your virtual hardware. Once you have all those things running, granted everything else is working right, you should be able to run the full-blown Xorg server, which is different than the XSDL. XSDL, you just have to build XSDL. You may need library xfont. You may need some of those fonts installed, though. I'm not sure about that. But my patches will get you there, at least to the point where you'll have at least a broken build. But the good news is this is the next point I was going to get. You can fix it. So we're not at a stage where the Haiku community is a commercial operation where we've sat down and made the perfect builds for everybody, and we're just waiting for you to come by and complain. The situation is that we've kicked and scratched and struggled and got just to this point. We're close to having good builds, and you can try it. You're welcome to try it. And if it doesn't work for you, let us know. Don't complain because, well, we've already stretched ourselves to the limit to get to this point. So try to fix it, or try to find someone that can fix it, or sorry, unfortunately, we weren't able to muster a perfect build yet. But we're working on it. Our goal is to get there. But we aren't there yet. But if you can fix it, we're very happy to know that you can, to contribute to the overall solution. I'm gonna keep trying. Maybe in a week I'll say all these problems are gone. I don't know. Or in a week I'll still be struggling with something else. I just don't know what's going to happen. But that's the overall situation. And if you're someone that's experienced and knows how to code, knows how to patch, and understands code in depth, you can take what I've done and you can polish it up fairly easily. If you have Pkgsrc installed, you can just package add the packages that I've built, put up. And then when you get to the thing you want to use that has the problem, you'll have the source, because Pkgsrc gives you access to the source, and you'll have my patches. And you'll be able to change you supply my patches, and then you can make the changes from there. You'll be right exactly in the same situation that I was in, but you'll have the skills to fix it where I didn't. And hopefully that'll lead to a better solution. That's the goal, that's the hope. So I'm trying to get as many things as I can built. Whether they're perfect or not, that's not what I'm promising. What I'm trying to do is explore, get the door open for possibilities, and allow other people to that are better than I am to easily be able to fix these things. Not say, well, God, if I wanted to fix that, I'd have to spend a whole month to get there. I'm saving you the month so you can spend the day to fix, whatever it is you're interested in fixing, which could be LibraryX 11. At least at this point. And some things I think that it's going to take a long time until I get a better answer for the answer that I've come up with, which is probably not all that good. So I'm not I'd be overjoyed to find out someone fixed something that I just couldn't figure out. And this is all experimental. It's experimental and it's exploratory, and I'm trying to get us somewhere. Very happy to have the patches put to Haiku Porter, built by hand. Some other invention for package creation. I don't care, as long as it's for Haiku and it's used, and that's what the point is. That is the point. So. Now, I don't know if I've covered the details, but I'll do it again if I already have. Basically, so today when I was doing my builds, I was able to build the modular Xorg server. I'm probably going to be able to improve that somewhat based on, well, after I hopefully improve my library my XSDL X server, by following more closely the patches that Penguin K had already done. Hopefully that will, because a lot of the patches are similar, so that'll lead me to, having a chance at a better build for the full X server, at least the body of it. Okay. Now, there's some other issues. I've actually successfully built the mouse, and when I look at the log, the mouse driver, there's no problem. It doesn't have any unresolved symbols or anything like that. I do have unresolved symbols with my keyboard, and I haven't been able to get through the VESA driver build, and it looks like there's some definitions in the code that we just don't have in our headers, but I'm not sure if that's the case. And I'm doing VESA. I looked at our headers briefly, and I noticed there were some Radeon headers and some Intel headers. So, and those will probably be better for me to try, actually. And they may have the definitions that I need to build one of these things. There's also a, not VirtualBox, but the other one. I forgot the name. A driver for that. That you can use is the X11 video driver, which is different than the hardware driver, I think. Not sure. Pretty sure. So that's where things are at. So I'm just going to update my stuff, put some more packages out there. So you're going to see some fonts. You're going to see a package for the mouse. You're going to see a package for the keyboard, at least the one I'm going to release today, which is 27th of December. Until such time as I update once again. I hope to if I do update it once again, that it will be not a driver that has unresolved symbols. Also, I'm also going to be going over and trying out these various games and things now that I have an X server, and seeing when I get unresolved symbols. And when I do, I'm going to see what the problem was and go back and see where I screwed up on the patch, or perhaps whatever, or maybe we just don't have that function in our headers or whatever. So sort things out, try to get them built better, but it's going to be a long process. I have a number of untried packages as well, at least want to get on the board. It's going. It's pretty much where things are at. So right now I'm just going to release my packages and patches, and hopefully I'll get some better results tomorrow. But my numbers are going to be up if I just took the time to build the library X fonts. The percentages are going to be higher. I think I have a good chance of breaking 60% now that I have Pango built, and now that I have library X font built. And slowly but surely over time, I seem to break through these things. And then as problems come up when I try to run these things, slowly but surely over time, I end up figuring out what the issue is and fixing it. In some cases, I still don't have a Ruby build. I've kind of put that on the back burner. I've been really pushing the X, because if I didn't get an Xer, I would think this would be a big waste of time. So glad I have that. That's it.